So we're talking about the Inflation Reduction Act, and I always like to start off with a picture of the Earth. And it's just to remind us what we're here for and how thin our atmosphere is. And we got one heck of a beautiful planet, and we're all doing our best to save it for the young ones. That's my grandson, little Isaiah, my first and only grandson. So it's for him. He's going to be around, right? When the shit hits the fan, and he'll still be here in 2100. So a little bit about me. I'm a retired environmental engineer. I did hazardous waste, wastewater, contaminated sediment, worked for US EPA, helped write some of their guidance documents. Anyway, I retired about whatever it was 5 or 6 years ago. And I searched around for the various environmental organizations and which one I wanted to work with. And I chose Citizens Climate Lobby. So I'm a member of CCL. I'm also a member of 350.org, although I don't come to all your meetings. I try to make some here and there. Anyway, that's who I am. So we're talking about the Inflation Reduction Act, and it is a very big step forward in the fight against climate change, the largest bill ever passed in the United States. And it does help us get to 40% by the year 2030. So here's our greenhouse gas emissions in millions of tons. Total greenhouse gas, and these are CO2 equivalents. A lot of you probably are familiar with that. Back in 2005, we were at 6,600, and our Paris target that we have committed to by the year 2030 is to half that, down to 3,300. And here's what's been going on. We are actually on a good declining path. Not sufficient to get us to that, but it has been dropping through these years, and here we are today. And it's been dropping largely because of the retirement of coal-fired power plants, okay? And it's a big deal. Not a lot of people realize that we've dropped or retired about 30% of our coal power plant fleet. So that's a big reason. And renewables are taking over some of that, but a lot of it, frankly, switched over to natural gas-fired power. Anyway, we are making progress. If we keep just going along the track we are now, here's what we think will be, as we say, business as usual in the year 2030. But the Inflation Reduction Act, and these are error bars around it, okay? We think we're going to get all the way down here, 40% drop. So this drop between here and here, that's 1 million megatons. I mean, a gigaton, a billion tons. So that is very significant. And what is the Inflation Reduction Act? How does it do it? The main thing that it gets most of that billion, so you see these numbers in parentheses, will add up to that 1,000 megatons. But the big one is production and investment tax credit for clean energy. So the folks that go out and build the wind farms and solar farms, they will be, because there was these tax credits, we're going to build a lot more than would otherwise have happened if not for the Inflation Reduction Act. So that's a big part of it. The electric vehicle incentives are another big part of it, 280 million tons. The methane pollution fee, that was, it was a CCL, we're all about fossil fuel carbon tax. And we didn't get that. We got within one vote of getting that. It would have been awesome if we did get that. But the Inflation Reduction Act has a $60 per ton methane fee. And so that incentivizes those folks that have natural gas pipelines and natural gas wells to fix the leaks, all right? Because it's going to cost them. They have to report all this. So at least the reported methane leaks, if they solve them, they get $60 per ton. They don't have to pay that fee. So anyway, that's a big part of it. Carbon capture and sequestration, there's an $85 per ton tax credit for that. And that's another big part of the bill that Citizens Climate Lobby wants to enact. Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act actually has a rebate also. It includes a ramping up carbon tax, but it also includes a rebate for when you get that carbon, that CO2 out of your smokestack. So if you capture it, say you're a natural gas fired power plant and you capture that CO2, liquefy it and pump it back deep into the earth where it's set aside forever, hopefully, you get a tax credit. So that is a big deal. And there's already demonstration projects out there for this. And so it is, and the amount, the dollars that we think that it will be incentivizing is somewhere around that 85, possibly up to $100 or so per ton. So big deal. What we're talking about today is down here, building electrification and efficiency tax credits and rebates. That will drop us another 50 million tons. There's also natural climate solutions like growing trees that are in there, and that should drop us by another 100 million tons. So CCL was very active. This isn't a big promo for CCL, but I just wanted to mention this because I give this to all kinds of different groups. CCL was very active the last year leading up to the Inflation Reduction Act, even though most of our effort at the time was pushing to get the Energy Innovation Carbon Dividend bill passed. That is the carbon pricing bill. We came within one vote. Senator Manchin held out, but he agreed to this Inflation Reduction Act instead. So all our work, and I'm sure folks like you, did a lot of active work in holding meetings with congressional offices, 50,000 phone calls, 10,000 contacts in the final 2 weeks. I wrote several op-eds myself, tons of letters to the editor. So that's what motivates our members when their phones are going off the hook. So anyway, why go electric? Certainly money. You can save a lot of money by going electric. The estimate is $1,800 per year on average for a home to switch over to all electric. Certainly health reasons. Burning fossil fuels is a major source of health problems like childhood asthma. That was research that just came out recently. The fact that many of us burn natural gas inside our home and don't turn on the exhaust fan if we have one. My daughter living in Brooklyn has natural gas stove, but there's no overhead fan. All that CO2 goes right into the air, and it's very measurable. I actually had a CO2 monitor, and I can tell when she's been cooking. But the big one is certainly climate. Fossil fuel burning is in buildings is a major source of climate pollution. So what I'm going to talk about is we're going to start with heat pump space heating. Then we're going to talk about heat pump water heating, induction stoves, home weatherization, vehicles, rooftop solar, and electric upgrades. This is a really neat graph I like to show because what it is, the scale here isn't real important other than what was it, quadrillion tons or quadrillion BTUs. So within the US, household energy use. And here's what the various colors mean. Electricity is where we want to go. We want all these to be electricity, and hopefully it'll be renewable electricity in the future. Okay, we've got to stop burning the fossil fuels, the natural gas in light blue, the propane. I'm out here in Genesee and I burn with propane, so I'm in the green spot here. Fuel oil. Actually, there's a lot of places. I was just in Brooklyn with my two of my kids live there, and there's still a lot of homes heating with fuel oil. I was surprised. A lot of brownstones. But anyway, so the major source in your average home energy consumption and dollars is to heat your house, right? And it's certainly here in Wisconsin. So, and most of that is done with natural gas. So this is what we're trying to change, and the propane and the fuel oil over to heating, preferably with the heat pumps. And I just recently switched my water heater over. That's the next biggest consumption of energy in your typical home to electric. And I kicked myself because I did that about 3 years ago, and I didn't even know about the heat pump water heater, which is much more efficient than the electrical resistance water heater I put in. But again, that's what we're trying to do. So those two, if you just did these two, they're the big ones. Okay, certainly electricity, air conditioning, they're all run by electricity, right? Then we got lighting, refrigerators, et cetera, and the various other uses, which are mostly electricity. So the big guys are up here, space heating and water heating.
Can I jump in with a question here?
Yeah.
You switched your water heating from gas to electricity. Did you watch to see what the difference in cost was?
Well, yeah, it'll be if I didn't have solar panels on my roof, it would have been more expensive. Certainly, it costs more with a standard electric resistance water heater. It costs more to heat than with natural gas. Propane, it might have been close. It might have been a push because propane is much more expensive than natural gas out here. Yeah, that's an interesting question, but you go with the heat pump and we'll be talking about that a little bit and you'll end up saving money quite a bit. So let's talk about heat pumps. They use electricity to move heat from one place to another. They're used both to cool and to warm buildings. And when I talk about heat pumps, as this picture here, I am mostly talking about air-to-air heat pumps, okay? There's also geothermal, and there's two types of geothermal, the vertical wells, which if you don't have a lot of property, that's probably what you're gonna do if you want a geothermal. They're expensive. It might cost $30,000 or more to put a geothermal system in. And then there's horizontal. I actually looked at it. I have 3 acres here out in Genesee, and I, being an environmental engineer, I had to design it myself. So it would have required a couple thousand feet of trenching. So very expensive to put a geothermal system in, but even more energy efficient than the air-to-air heat pump here in Wisconsin. But anyway, back to this 3 to 5 more efficient than most current fossil fuel heating systems, right? You're not burning a fuel and wasting a lot of heat, you know? There is no fuel that's being burnt in a heat pump. All you're doing is compressing a refrigerant, sucking energy out of the cold air. That's what you're doing. So you save energy, reduce emissions. And this last one, this reduction in Wisconsin energy bills by an average of $530 per year. That's for comparing the propane furnace, which again, I have, versus changing it over to a heat pump. And that was put out in a study by the Public Service Commission. So those are, they've got quite a large staff. So they've been putting information on that. So that's a big deal. So what does a heat pump look like?
Go ahead. Terry's got her hand up. I think she's got a question.
Go.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I had a question from a couple of slides back. You talked about saving, one more, I think. Yeah, $1,800 by going all electric. Not contingent on already having solar panels, right?
Oh, no, this is not, no, this is not relative to whether you have solar panels or not. This is simply replacing those fossil fuel stoves and heaters and
really
all that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess on that same thought, does that include vehicles, or is that just the house?
That was just the households. Yeah. You got me there. I have to double check on that. I think that's just the house. That's what I assumed it was, but now that you bring it up, it does seem like a big savings for heating, and then water heating is a percent of that, maybe 50% or 30% of that. So yeah, let's just say for now it's a substantial savings. Okay. So we were talking, okay, what is, I was starting to explain how a heat pump works. And so most of us will be having this kind of unit sitting outside, an air-to-air heat pump. And it removes heat from the cold outdoor air. And now I'm talking about the heating aspect of a heat pump. The liquid refrigerant basically is evaporating in coils inside this unit. And as a refrigerant evaporates, it sucks heat from the outdoor air. Even cold air, it can be 0 degrees outside. You can still get energy from that. And so you evaporate the refrigerant, you run the refrigerant through narrow diameter pipes into your house. And most of us will be running it in to a condenser unit that sits in your ductwork right above your furnace. And if you know how an air conditioner works, you have one of these sitting in your furnace if you have the standard air conditioning, whole house air conditioning with a forced air system. This is what sits in the furnace. So you basically have to take that one out, put one that's sized properly to the heat pump. And the whole thing will cost you, I just got an estimate. The materials cost is around $5,000 for the 2 units. And they actually wanted, I didn't get this done yet, but I think it was $11,000 to install, 11 or 12,000 to install. And that's using my current furnace. The other thing about this whole thing is in Wisconsin, we do need to augment on those really cold days. The heat pump's probably not, you're not going to be able to size it to properly to get heat out on a day that the temperature doesn't get above 0 degrees, right? So on those really cold days in Wisconsin, you'll either augment it with, I might just keep my propane furnace right there, and then when the thermostat says outdoor temperature is 0 degrees or below, it turns on the propane. Or you can get rid of and go totally electric and have electric resistance heating elements instead of that old propane furnace for those really cold days. That will be a bit more expensive, but it doesn't operate that often, right? So that's the heat pump concept. Now that is what most of us probably will do. You can also do these mini split systems, which has a similar outdoor unit, and then they run the pipes not into a whole house ducted air system, but into individual units. You might have 3 or 4 of these in a house, depending on the size of your house. These are called mini splits, okay? So they have the coils inside here, and that's where the condensing refrigerant occurs that gives off the heat. So you're using electricity compressed refrigerant, only 30% of energy of gas or propane furnace. Yeah, somebody question?
Yeah, sorry, Phil.
Yeah.
So 11,000 was like total, so it's like $6,000 in labor, basically.
Yeah, yeah. You would think that
There's
would take a lot of days to install, but I don't know. It just seemed exorbitant. So I might put it in myself. I don't know.
Yeah, I've become a hopeless do-it-yourselfer, and
Yeah.
$6,000 sounds like I could spend a couple of weeks trying to figure out how to do it.
Yeah, I know. I'm of the same mind, and I actually installed my own natural gas furnace 30 years ago. But it is at a minimum, if I do it myself, I'm going to hire the local heating and AC folks and give them $500 or whatever they want to come over and check it all out for me. So it's a good idea, because you do have to be a technician. Some of this stuff is a little bit more complicated than the average person would want to tackle. So will they work in cold climates? Yes. As I said, they work to below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. These are amazing numbers, huh? 60% of homes in Norway, 43 in Sweden, etc., have heat pumps now. And Maine is installing 27,000 heat pumps. And I mentioned this already. On cold days, heating is augmented with a resistance heating or a fossil fuel. So now let's talk about IRA incentives. So again, remember the IRA, it's all about switching us off fossil fuels. So right now, any of us, if we put in a heat pump, we can get a tax credit up to $2,000, 30% of the cost up to $2,000 is available now, okay? So let's do a number on this. So if I say I put in that for round numbers, say a $10,000 heat pump, 30% of that's 3,300. I can get 2,000 of that, up to 2,000. So I can get $2,000 off my taxes next year if I put a heat pump in right now. All right, so that's available. You just I've done this for my solar panels too. You just fill out this one form, and they trust you. You fill out the numbers, and it's a very simple form, and boom, off it goes, and you get the tax rebate. So that's available now. What's coming in 2024 from the Inflation Reduction Act is what they call a point of sale rebate. This has nothing to do with taxes now. Literally, And it's based on your income level. So rich people get these tax credits, right? But an awful lot of people in our country don't pay taxes, all right? Or they pay fairly low taxes such they wouldn't be able to get $2,000 rebate. So Inflation Reduction Act is saying for low income and middle income households, you can get a point of sale rebate. So I looked it up and there's a great website I'll show you. Maybe after we're done with the presentation, I'll pop over to the website. It's called Rewire America. And there's a slide on that coming up. But you go in there, you put in your zip code. And for your zip code, it calculates the area median income for that particular area you live in. And the IRA says if you are less than 80% of the median income in your area, and in the Milwaukee Stadium here, I put in the zip code for that area, that number is $60,000 per year for this is for a household of two filing jointly. So if you are retired, say, and you could very easily meet this number as a retiree, 60,000 per year, okay? You would get a point of sale rebate for that. Say it was 12,000, putting it in, they're gonna subtract $8,000 off that bill. That is what's gonna happen. So you will literally pay $4,000. And that's paperwork that will be handled by your heating and ventilating contractor. They're figuring all that, how to do that and how to get those guys educated so they got the right paperwork. And that's why they figured it's going to take a bit of time before it starts coming into effect. But that's the idea of it. You would get a point of sale rebate if your income is less than 60,000. Now, if you're in the middle income, you're within 80 to 150% of the area median income. And again, for that area near the stadium, that is 110,000 per year. So if you are less than, if you're between the 60 and 110, you will get a $4,000 off. Again, point of sale rebate. Pretty cool, huh?
Excellent.
Yeah, big number. I was talking to Keller Marine Heating and Air Conditioning. They're only located a couple miles from here. And I gave the owner a call. And this was back last year when this just came out. And I said, do you guys know what this thing is going to do to your business? And he's expanding rapidly. He's now the biggest in Wisconsin and is hiring. They've got tons of new trucks out there. This is going to be a big deal, guys. It really is. When these point of sale rebates come into effect, all kinds of people are going to be switching over, especially if they need that new furnace. And the heating ventilating contractors are slowly coming up to speed and all this stuff. At the time when I talked to him, he really didn't know the details at all. But he does now because it's a big deal to them. Heat pump water heaters. Let's talk about them. So your typical water heater ends right about here. You know, my electric one is about, this is about a 40 or 50 gallon water heater. Okay. What they do is put the compressor up here above the unit, and that is what is going to suck heat out of. Now, in this situation, you will probably be using indoor air. And now, if it's summertime, this really works cool because what you're doing is you're using indoor air, sucking the heat out of that indoor air. And say you've got this in your basement or utility room, and say it's a hot day out and it's 80 degrees, you're sucking energy out of that air and then heating your hot water, and you're blowing back cold air into the house. So it's functioning as an air conditioner also in the summer. Unfortunately, in the winter, it's going to blow cold air back. So it's not going to be as efficient because you then have to obviously reheat that air. I don't know the actual numbers. If it comes in at 80, it's probably going to leave at I'm going to guess around 50 or so. So anyway, they are certainly more efficient than most current water heating systems. And that number I had, what the water heater, what was the number? $530 savings for propane. Anyway, right now for heat pump water heaters, there is a 30% tax credit, again, up to that $2,000 per year. And realize these are available each year. So if you want to go for the tax credit, do one this year and do it again next year, you get another $2,000, right? If you did them all one year, you max out at $2,000. All right, follow that? So there will be a point of sale rebate for that low income and middle income that we talked about earlier, $1,750 for the low income households. And again, these things new over at Home Depot sell for right around $2,000. Your typical propane or natural gas water heaters only, there's a wide variety, but you can get them for $500 to $1,000. But these are a little more expensive because of the compressor, but you can almost get them for free. I don't know how much they charge to install these. They're not terribly complicated to hook up the electricity to these guys and the hot and cold waters. But substantial point of sale rebates coming though.
Can I ask a question about the hot water heaters? And that is, do they have them that work with like a vertical geothermal?
You can. Yeah, the geothermal stuff. If you're doing geothermal, you will probably integrate the two. Yes, I've seen that. I haven't looked at it in detail because I finally decided not to go ahead with geothermal. But in my research and reading, yeah, there's a whole integrated system for hot water too. Typically, if you're going to that expense, you're going to also include your water on that. You bet. Yeah.
Great.
There's something else that I thought you might be asking. Oh, ducting these. So you can, I remember I said in the winter you're producing cold air that you're going to have to reheat. You can push that air outside. You can duct the exhaust air, the cold exhaust air outside. But if you think about it in a holistic way, if you push air outside, that air has to be replaced. And so it is going to suck through the little cracks in your house and come in anyway. So it may not be a real important to duct the air outside.
Bill, is that just a 115 volt, 15 amp circuit?
Yeah, no, good question, Ray. I looked into that, and you can get them either way. Most of these heat pump water heaters do come with 240 volts. So that requires, an extra wire and an extra breaker and all. But they are available in one. And the reason they do that is they call them hybrids. And if you've got a lot of guests over and people are really, maybe you have a 50-gallon one, but now you got guests over for the holidays and you're running low on the heat pump water because it takes longer to heat up. They will be a hybrid, so they'll have an electric resistance heating element in there, okay, to bump it up and give you that extra hot water. That's what they talk about when they say they're hybrids. So that's 240 volt, but they also make them 120 volt. So obviously then you're going to have electric resistance heating element in there, but it just won't be quite as big as the other one, so it won't heat up quite as fast. But get a little bit bigger one. Get like for me, a 50-gallon is plenty. And I bet you I would never run out of hot water. So there's all kinds of different ways to do this, but I would certainly personally lean to 120 because my current box is about maxed out in my house and I don't want to put a new one in.
So Phil, when you're dumping cold air into your basement from the heat pump water heater, wouldn't that cause condensation?
Let's think about that. Would you
Or would you be better off just venting it to the outside?
I don't know if it would necessarily. The air would be cold. Will the humidity in your house condense on something where that could be a problem?
Basement walls.
Yeah. I haven't, all the reading I did on it, I didn't see where that would be a problem. There is condensation within the unit, and there will be a condensation line leading from inside the unit to your drain, just like your current furnace has a condensation line running to your drain. So it won't be that, but cold air on anything could cause your moisture inside your house.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you'd be better off just venting it.
Yeah, maybe you do vent it then. Yeah.
One of the problems with our system of heating water is that we heat this enormous amount of water and it just sits there. It has to constantly be reheated and it isn't being used. And whereas I know in England, I spent a summer there, and perhaps in other European countries, They just have a little heater, electric heater right next to the faucet area. And although when you turn on the cold water, if you want it hot, you turn it to that and it runs right through the electric heater and out
Yep.
your faucet. And
Yep.
so, and when when the water's not being used, it's not being heated. And it just seemed so efficient to me and made a
Yep.
lot more sense.
You know, Julie, I looked into one of those. I forget the name. I think they call it point of use heating. And I was going to do that in my house. And you can buy those, and they're available here. They take a lot of power though. So I would need 5 for my house. I think it was 4 240-volt circuits to get one of those units big enough for all the water I need in the house. You could, what you were probably seeing is that, okay, you could put one unit in the kitchen, right, where you need hot water. You can put another one in the bathroom and another one in the other bathroom. So now you're at 3 or 4. But so you can do that. It's heating. It's just like my electric water heater in the basement. It's the same idea. It's just that it's not a big volume, but you will still end up using a similar amount of energy. Although you make a good point in that you don't. It's that hot water that I have in a 50-gallon tank sits there and gives off some of its heat to the basement. In winter, that's not really an issue because that heat helps warm the house.
Mhm.
In the summer, it is waste heat. I actually took insulation blankets and slapped them all around my water heater to try to minimize that problem. But those units you say are available, and you can do that approach too. Okay, electric stoves. So the IRA includes money if you switch over your fossil fuel, most of us natural gas or propane stove, to either the electric resistance or the newfangled induction stoves. Anybody online have an induction stove, and if you care, do you like it?
Yeah, we have an induction stove, and yeah, we used to always enjoy gas, although we didn't have gas at our house, but we were thinking of putting gas in because it heats up really fast and you turn it off and it's off. Whereas conventional electric kind of lingers, but the induction seems like it really behaves like gas. I mean, it's
immediate,
very quickly on and it's very quickly off. And then the whole area around your pot is not hot. You know, it's just it really just heats the pot.
Yeah. And as I understand, those are more expensive than a electric resistance stove, right?
Yeah, we bought a relatively cheap one for about $800, and I know you can get a stove for about $500, electric one, but it wasn't outrageous. You can go up from there very easily.
Okay. Well, here we are. The point of sale rebate for those electric stoves between $420 and $840, depending on your income level. So they're trying to push all the electric. And the other thing that's come out, this methane, we keep using the natural gas. Somebody sent me an article that said, Phil, quit using that word. That's an industry term, natural gas. Come on. What's natural about it? It's a polluting fossil fuel. It's methane gas. We should call it methane stove. So no more methane stoves, please. You won't get the indoor air pollution. It has been linked to childhood asthma risk, especially if you don't have the exhaust fan. We talked about induction, super fast, accurate, safe, and much more efficient, right? So yeah, switch over. That's the idea of the Inflation Reduction Act. So it also has lots of money for weatherization. And this surprised me. I was visiting my daughter. She lived in about 5 different places in Brooklyn, New York. But one of her brownstones, literally, she was on the upper floor of a 4-story, and there was no insulation in the roof, zero. And then I find out that this is not uncommon. A lot of our old housing stock built before 1920 or so, they didn't used to put insulation in. So there's a lot of homes out there that have no insulation in their walls and in cold climates. So you can save considerable money by putting that in. And there's ways. I owned an old house over in Milwaukee. 30 years ago, I owned a house and no insulation in its walls, and I promptly blew in cellulose insulation. Anyway, so you can weatherize your house. Currently, there's a 30% tax credit up to $1,200 per year. That is available now. Again, most of these things reset. So if you do some weatherization and you get your $1,200 tax credit this year, you can go and do another set of things and get another $1,200 next year. That's what resetting is about. And here's the specifics on each type of weatherization. There's a limit on that. $250 per door, for instance, more for windows. But most of it, I mean, the big bang for the buck is insulation and air sealing for sure. And then coming in 2024, the point of sale rebates will kick in. And that's up to $1,600 for low income and $800 for middle income households. So you're going to be seeing an awful lot in the urban areas of for instance, Milwaukee, and these homes that leak like a sieve. There's going to be all kinds of contractors knocking on doors saying, hey, we can do this work for $2,000 and hey, you'll only have to pay $400 or something like that. So that's what it's about. It's to incentivize all this to start making it happen.
Yeah, Bill, this is Ray Grosh.
Yeah.
I asked a question, like in the Milwaukee metro area, a lot of that housing is rental. How is any of this going to affect the, I guess,
Good point.
the resident or the owner of the property, I guess?
Yeah. That's a great question, Ray, because I also own a home in Waukesha. And so I rent it out to my brother-in-law. I was wondering how there ought to be something. So I looked it up, and yes, this does apply to rental properties. And interestingly, it's not the owner's income that matters. It's the renter's income that matters. So in urban Milwaukee, even those homes owned by someone else, you can still get, and if you think it through, it's like, well, it's, even though that money is going to the landlord, the ugly landlords like me, the reality is it's going to cut the costs for a lot of the renters because many of them pay their own utilities. So that's the idea behind it. Let's knock their utility bills down. Yeah, the owner will get this better building, and maybe it'll be able to be sold for a bit more money than it was before because of it. But in the long run, the renters will be paying less bills. So that's good. There's a whole nother thing, the home's upfront rebate. And this is something, so if you have an energy audit for your whole home, and say your home, like I was saying earlier, doesn't have any insulation in the walls, and they run the model saying, okay, here's a home without any insulation in Wisconsin, how much would we, if we insulated and did these other things, and if it meets a certain criteria, and I think it's like 35% energy savings, then there's this other a major rebate of $8,000, $8,000 to $4,000, depending on income level again. So very big deal here.
Terry's got her hand up.
On the previous slide, you said it said $600 for windows. Is that for installing a new window, one per window? Or,
yeah, it's per window.
And it's installing a new window?
Yeah.
Now
these, I gotta be kind of think about this carefully. So it's 30% tax credit up to $1,200 per year. And then, so for each window, there's 30% tax credits for the window up to $600.
Okay.
And that's per window.
Okay.
And you know, that website I'm going to send you to is real clear on all this. So it's the Rewire America website. And hopefully I'll get time to pop over there. But then you can kind of look through and say, oh, I'm going to do all these different things, and here's how it all works. And
okay, thank you.
Okay.
I have a question about the home upfront rebate 2024, and also that happens in 2024, and also point of sale rebate 2024. Can you have those things like energy refits in 2023? And also, can you have your insulation, air sealing, and ventilation costs done in 2023?
No,
Oh.
no, you can't. I asked the same question. I wish they would have made it retroactive, but they did not. So it's not.
Because we had someone come already and put the big fan in the door.
Yeah, right.
Suck all the air in, and they're going to be coming here in about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, should we just put this off until next year?
If you meet those income levels, that would certainly be in your interest. Now, it may not happen for a whole year. There was a presentation at the Renew Energy Conference that we had a lady giving a presentation from Rocky Mountain, and they are very much up on Rocky Mountain Institute. So they're very much on all the details. And she said Wisconsin probably won't be till August of next year in terms of getting this program out and rolling. Basically, IRA said, hey, each state handles this separately. And the states got to figure it out, and you know, they'll be getting on board one by one, I guess. But Wisconsin is certainly, it will be trying to roll it out as soon as possible, though, for sure.
So
Okay.
Phil, will there be any provisions in this IRA for reimbursement for energy audits?
I believe yes, the energy audits are in there too. You bet. I think that's coming up on another slide. Yeah. So if you have a whole energy audit, that'll be available for rebates. Okay, we're going to switch over to electric vehicles really quick. Certainly, transportation currently accounts for 28% of greenhouse gas emissions. Obviously, no direct. That's a Tesla they're showing there. I had the good fortune of going out to California for a wedding and getting the wrong car assigned to me. I ended up with the Tesla. I got to drive it for 10 days. So that was kind of fun. Maintenance, and I own a Chevy Bolt, so I could compare the electric Chevy Bolts to the Tesla, and I prefer my Bolt, I must admit. Certainly maintenance is simpler. I got 50,000 miles on my Bolt, and I still haven't had any bill. I rotated the tires myself, and there's just nothing else to do. No gas stations, no fuel, and if you got solar panels on your roof, I basically haven't paid for running that car because I charge it up. I've only charged it outside 3 times outside my own home. So, and that's what happens to most people. Oh, another interesting thing, I was just reading in the New York Times had an article on Norway. Now, 80% of new car sales in Norway are electric vehicles. They're up to 80%. So it was a great article because they've been incentivizing purchasing electric cars for years now. And so they are the first country where you can really get in and see when you have that many electric cars, how's it working out? And the article is very positive that it's working out. They're building all the charging that they need. And even there, most people still end up charging from home. It is a bit more hassle to go long distance with an electric vehicle because you do have to stop every 200, 250 miles or so and charge for about 30 minutes to an hour. Tax credits starting in 2023. And again, there's an income limit, $7,500 for new vehicles. Used vehicles, $4,000. That's only selling used vehicles through a dealer, though. You can't sell your own online and get the $4,000. So it's got to be a dealer there. Solar panels. That IRA bumped the tax credit of 30% back up to 30%. It was starting to decline, and they extended it all the way through 2032. So put those panels up there. They're great. I put 36 on my roof, 11 kilowatts system, and it covers my electric needs for the house and with enough electricity to charge my car. So it's, and I did it myself. It only cost me, what was it? $8,000 all said. Most of that, you know, typically it's 20 or 30,000 put them up there, but most of that's labor costs. So it's not that complicated to put those up there. And so I think my return was about 4 years. So they're basically paid for now because I'm saving $1,000 a year in electricity and another 1,000 in defrayed gasoline because of the electric. So great thing, and we want more and more people to put them on the roofs. Oh, there, okay. So lower electricity costs. Average when they're installed by someone is a return in 12 years. So after 12 years, hey, that's all gravy, right? You're defraying your electricity. If you put enough panels on there, like I literally used to have a $1,000 per year electric bill. So that's a big deal. Now, if you want to go total carbon neutral, I looked into this too for my home, and I have about a 2,000 square foot home. It's passive solar, but I still heat with propane. So when I switch that over next year to my heat pump, I will need about double the electricity that I currently use. I'll need another 36 panels if I want to go carbon neutral. That's the last thing that this home uses in terms of fossil fuels is the propane to run the furnace. So the heat pump does take a lot of electricity, right? So that's what it would cost. Another 36 panels, but again, then I wouldn't be paying for anything basically. Now I use that as an average annual kind of approach. Certainly even with another 36 panels on my roof, I'm still not going to meet my electricity heating needs in the winter months, December, January, February. I'll still be pulling electricity off the grid even in those months, even with another set of panels, because the days are so short and the sun angle's lower, obviously. So another thing is the electric panel and wiring incentive. 30% tax credit is available now up to $600 per year. And there will be point of sale rebates for that upgrade of the panel. And these panels, and like I was saying earlier, mine is maxed out. I got no more space in here. And if yours is maxed out, it's going to cost you some bucks to put an additional panel in. So they've even thought about that. And there's a point of sale rebate for that. Up to $4,000 or $2,500 for low income, et cetera. So substantial for upgrading the panels that we're going to all need to do as we switch our homes over to total electricity. Here's that a screenshot of the Rewiring America savings calculator. This is CCL getting you to go through our website to get there, but you just type in Rewiring America, Google it, and you'll go right to their website. So you put in like your zip code, like I mentioned, your homeowner status, income level, tax filing, and up pops the various tax credits, okay? And the upfront discounts and all that. So they're all in there and it's a really handy site. So the IRA will transform the US economy. And the best estimates by 2030, up to 85% of our electricity will be from clean sources, clean wind farms and solar farms, many more, possibly most new cars and trucks will be electric. 1 million new jobs are estimated from all this new infrastructure and requirements. So it's a big deal. One problem, and I don't always show this, I'm getting to permit reform that's needed to build these things, to build the transmission lines. So when you build a solar or wind project out in Iowa or whatever, you got to get the power to where it's needed in the cities. We got to rapidly build our transmission system, or we simply won't be able to get that renewable energy to where it's needed. So permitting is currently a bottleneck. I don't know if you guys have read about this issue. It's a big deal issue. Right now, we're only expanding our electric transmission lines at about a 1% per year. We need to speed it up. We need to double that rate of building transmission lines, or else we're not going to be able to meet all the electric demands, and we're going to keep running the darn natural gas plants, right? So we've got to triple our capacity by 2050. Currently, it takes agencies 4.5 years to complete an environmental impact statement for the big energy. Every big project requires an EIS, and it starts extending the time frame. So there's a lot of work being done in Congress right now to speed that whole permitting process. And so if we don't start building clean energy fast enough, we'll only achieve about 20% of the carbon pollution reduction of the IRA. So we have to speed that. And a variety of people have called for that. Here's Tina Smith talking about Senator from Minnesota, and our own Bill McKibben. There's no question that we need both permitting reform and a kind of change in our attitude around all this stuff. So, and there's various other people. I'm just gonna pop through this real quick. There's a lot of different ideas out there that we can speed up the permitting and make it safe and make it environmentally sound. So CCL is working on that, and that's my presentation, guys.
Bill,
Yeah. So
this is Ray. Just a quick question on that transmission. I know I saw something about buried transmission lines following a railroad corridor from the Midwest. I don't know if that's getting built or not, but those overhead lines seems to be a lot of resistance, and I wonder, you know, with today's boring technology and stuff, it would just seem that more of those lines, and in fact, in the new construction subdivisions, they're putting everything underground.
yeah, you know, Ray, I had the same question in my mind. Why don't, there's all this resistance to the overhead, so why don't we just bury them? And the reason, it's cost. They're just a whole lot more expensive. I used to know the number, how many I shouldn't even say it, because I remember vaguely that it was something on the scale of 10 times the cost per mile for underground versus overhead. But don't quote me on that. I don't know that for sure. But it's substantially more expensive. So that's why you get the pushback. And this is for the high energy lines, because they have to be cooled. There's all kinds of details that has to go into that design. And not the local subdivision ones are another story. Yeah, any other questions?
Yeah, Phil, are you keeping track of the discussions going on in Congress now over the national debt ceiling? I know the Republicans are aiming for reduction in expenditures. Is that targeted against the IRA? Do you know?
Oh, yeah. They specifically mentioned that in Kevin McCarthy's bill, specifically wanted to roll back the IRA. And in fact, Citizen Climate Lobby had us mobilize to call our congressman and email them and complain about that and say, we don't want it rolled back. I frankly didn't jump on that bandwagon because I think it's just all posturing. I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell that that will fly through, that reduction in the IRA. That's not going to happen. Biden's not going to give in to that. I don't see it being an issue of terrible concern personally.
But we have to make sure that we convince our president not to cave in on this one.
Yeah, I would doubt very strongly that he will do that. But yeah.
It sounds like an awful lot of businesses stand to gain from the passage of that and from people taking advantage of it. And
oh yeah,
a lot of those that are Republican owned, and I
Yeah.
suspect that they'll be putting pressure on.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me of something I forgot to mention. It's not on any of my slides, but the IRA is a very well thought out bill. There is money in that bill for tax credits for companies to build the plants necessary to produce all the heat pumps that we're going to need. Apparently, we don't produce heat pumps in the United States. There, Rheem and all the others produce them overseas. But if they produce them in the US, which this bill incentivizes them to do that, they will get a tax credit. So Biden is very concerned about US jobs and all that. So there's provisions in there. There's also provisions in there to train all the necessary heating, ventilating technicians that will be needed. There's money that the local Kettle Moraine Heating and Air Conditioning can get to train new staff. So there's money for all the new structures that are going to be needed. You know, it's cool bill.
Okay, Bill, I have a question back to that. The heat pump, you were mentioning how you can put it into your existing furnace. or your existing air conditioning system.
Right.
And does that heat pump work in reverse and actually do cooling?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Or
yeah.
do
They're,
you need a separate
no, no, they do both. They do
go
both. So,
both ways, so.
right. So imagine your air conditioner is nearing its final legs, or your furnace, one of the two. Either one, don't replace it, put the heat pump in, because it's both an AC and a heater.
Well, right. And I have a furnace that's not that, well, I should say, I actually have a hydronic heating system.
Oh, yeah.
But I have a forced air for air conditioning. But I could just leave my hydronic thing turned off as a backup system and put in the heat pump to cool in the summer and heat for 90% of the winter also.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can also have a heat pump heat the water for the hydronic system. I just was focusing on forced air systems because that's what most of us have, but they make them for the hydronic systems too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And I think the hydronic ones are more efficient than the ones from liquid to air. So.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing about geothermal ones, whether you do it vertically or horizontally, and you're basically what you're doing is sucking the ground below about 6 feet. You got to bury, if it's horizontal, at least 6 feet, is around 55 degrees all the time. So you're running pipes of water, and you're sending that water through there, and it heats up to 55 degrees. And then you come in and suck the energy out of that with a refrigerant. And so then it goes back through a closed loop system back in the vertical wells or the horizontal, and it's probably going in at 45 or 50. So that's the difference. Okay, so you're running that water around, basically heating it up just maybe with 5 or 10 degrees, and that's enough to be able to heat your house, to suck the energy out of that. So cool system.
Well,
yeah,
one of you talked about the power cables and all the need for electricity, and actually with distributed power, like homes and the more you can distribute that power, the less burden you're going to put on those power cables.
That's certainly true, and I think I neglected to say that, but what happens is obviously distributed power, putting the panels right on your roof, right nearby, or if you're a business that needs electricity, put the panels right there, then you don't have the transmission issue. But even when they figure out that we max out that capacity to do that, and we really talk about getting people to do it so that we don't have to build the transmission lines, we still need transmission lines. So even if we go 100% and really max that out, we're still going to need the transmission lines because we just don't have enough.
Just going to lessen the burden. All of what we make in our home go right into our neighbor's house. It doesn't have to go into the long cables.
That is certainly optimal. And if everybody did it, there's quite a lot of roof capacity out there to lower the energy needs, right? And the need for transmission lines. And the transmission lines obviously lose power too. It's not a huge amount. It's like 10% or so over long distances that they lose to the heating the air from the power lines.
Bill, question, I didn't see any incentives. There's nothing for like battery storage like a Tesla.
That was on one of my slides. I think I breezed through it too quick. No, they did add in batteries this year. The IRA includes battery storage. So that tax credit and that I mentioned, that is available now to peripherals, including batteries. And it is also available if you're buying an electric car and you have to install that a new level 2 charger in your home. That could cost $1,000 too. The charger itself costs $500 to $750. They're both available for the rebates.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one other thing, as long as we have time here.
Yeah.
We have solar panels, and I have something. You're talking about a social experiment before.
Yeah.
And my social experiment in Shorewood here is with the high school, trying to get solar panels on the homes here in Shorewood.
Yeah.
And working with an advisor there, and hope to get 8 or 10 people kids who are helped up on climate change.
Yeah.
And there's 11 homes here, including ours, that have solar.
Mhm.
We could, if those kids would go out two at a time to homes and talk to the homeowners and find out what they like about them and what they don't like, whatever.
Mhm.
They're going to be able to get it all charged up and maybe go out and talk the rest of the homes around Shorewood. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
A lot of them are south-facing roofs, and and would be ideal. So anyway, I'm working
do.
with them and hope it'll.
Yeah, and go to the local energy fairs. I know Retzer Nature Center is going to have a energy fair in August, and that's where you end up talking to people and that have already put them in, and you start realizing, yeah, okay, it's some money, but you get it back, obviously. With the tax credits, it's pretty affordable.
Right.
Yeah.
Ours have paid off. We've had them for 9 years now, and it's paid off 76% of what we use.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's with only
And
14.
my experience too is there's virtually no maintenance on them. I mean, I did have a inverter go out on me, but I just replaced it. And it was under warranty, so not a big deal. But it's been very reliable. It just sits up there and produces solar electricity. Yeah.
We have ours in our garage, and I have a long snow rake, and I can pull it right off the panels in the winter, 3 or 4 times in the winter.
Yeah, it irritates the heck out of me when the snow's on my solar panels and they're up on my second story. I stick a ladder up and climb up there and push all that snow off. Okay.
I see Jean has a question.
Yeah.
Oh, I was asking, do you have to clean the panels, and do they break down after a while? How long do they last?
Yeah, most panels, and I looked into this a lot. First, you have to clean them. No, they're fine. Nobody has to go up there and wash them down. And then how long do they last? Most of them are guaranteed to produce 90% of the rated power after 25 years. So they're warranted for 25 years. So they slowly degrade. It's not very much. So 90% of many panels are rated right around 130, right around 300 watts. So in 25 years, they're still producing 270 watts. So that's pretty good.
So I have a question about the credits that are available this year. Will those phase out in 2024?
The tax rebates that are current are go all the way through 2030.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the other ones, I think all those are in there at least through 2030. Yeah.
Okay. So if you can't get you don't qualify for the other ones, the
tax rebates are there.
will still be available to some people.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah. A lot of good stuff out there.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Bill, fantastic presentation. I just really loved it.
Thank you.
So thanks very much for that.
Yeah.
And you've given a really great sense of the magnitude of these credits and rebates. I mean, this really is transformative stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I've been really busy thinking through a lot of our neighborhood organizations, those that are inclined to think about, and if not, start developing some cooperative projects, the amount of money available is just a golden opportunity for community nonprofits to really
Yes.
say, let's really make sure our people, our low and moderate income communities not only get the benefits of these credits, but we really start generating jobs and
You bet.
businesses and
Mhm.
cooperatives.
Mhm.
And, I've been talking with MATC. They're just striving to get people into those programs. And
Yeah.
we could have a network of community organizations that want to look at the transformative impact that
Yeah.
we could have as nonprofits to help develop our community residents
Yeah.
to get into these businesses themselves, cooperatives or the like.
Yeah.
It's to 2030, and it'll probably go beyond that. But
Right.
to get a sense, Milwaukee has 116,000 single to four family homes that need this technology. They need a lot of work. But the IRA, this really makes a cooperative venture a
And-
real possibility.
Right. And Dan, the thing, I did not talk about the other provisions in the Inflation Reduction Act that are all about community organizing. There is
Yes.
money, there's grants to incentivize NGOs, community orgs to gather together to build the programs needed to get all this rolled out. So there's tons of money. There's people at CCL I know that have done presentations on that specifically. In fact, Ross Astoria, a professor over at UW Parkside, is very much involved in that. And he could actually, he's a great resource that he knows all the details. That's very confusing to me when I just read through the presentation on that, all the grants available. There's so many overlapping types of grants. But yeah, they want community organizations to be out in the forefront in all this.
Yeah, this could really change the fabric of our organization activities.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What's that professor's name?
That's Ross Astoria.
Do you know the spelling?
Astoria. And if you send me an email, I could get Ross or connect you through to a good presentation, for instance, on all the details too.
Good, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be a great follow-up to your presentation, Phil,
Yeah,
to really begin that conversation. Tom, if
right.
you want some help on putting something like that together through 350, I'm with you.
Well, I'm thinking of Peace Action in particular and the new building that they're in by the university. There's 3 or 4 groups in there, and they could get together and do something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's probably a lot of groups that already know about this that are working. So you guys probably need to also find out what groups are already moving these grants forward. The application process for some of it's already passed, I think. But I think that was for the broad grants. And then they will pull in the other various community organizations to partner with. It's not like every community organization had to apply for a grant. You can be pulled into the umbrella of another organization,
And you can make a credible argument. It's just as a small business startup. There's all kinds of money available beyond the nonprofit and the foundations.
right?
I mean, this is real business opportunities, and our
Oh, it is.
community groups really could benefit and help our community vastly. Yes.
Yeah. And it's not just the kind of work it is too, whether it's installing solar panels or home weatherization or all just heating, ventilating stuff. That's very doable stuff. I mean, people can be just soaking up those jobs. It's like it should further reduce our unemployment.
It's a gateway to
rate.
21st century technologies.
Yeah.
And so, you've got a young person today could get into this through this grassroots effort and have a 30-year career.
You bet. Oh yeah.
Well-paying 30-year career in our community. We got to get our people on board to get into this.
You bet. You bet. Yeah, and I have no doubt it will happen. It's just a matter of how fast will it happen. It's just like I always say when I do presentations on climate, we're going to get there. It's just, it would be a hell of a lot better if we got there quicker,
I'm with you that we're going to get there. Will our communities benefit with equity and justice?
Yeah.
And that, to me, that dual focus that we have for 350, climate with equity and justice, it just resonates with what's being presented to us here.
Yeah, and the IRA specifically has all kinds of provisions that are equity and justice based.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool stuff.
Now, Gene brought up a question about dangers of induction cooktops with pacemakers. I did a quick search.
Oh, yeah.
What I'm seeing is that it depends on what type of pacemaker you have and how close you stand to the induction cooktop, and whether or not the pot is concentric with the induction coil. So apparently most pacing systems, or a lot of them, can sense the interference and accommodate it. But if you have a certain type of pacemaker, that might, according to what I've been reading, that might affect the pacemaker.
That's a good piece of information.
Yeah.
So if you do have a pacemaker, I guess it's before you buy an induction cooktop, you should talk to your cardiac physician and find out what you're sporting.
Yeah. Back a few slides when we were talking about induction, my wife and I just bought a $40 induction plate just to
Oh, yeah.
And it just was transformative. Our gas furnace is going out as soon as we can put it on our list, but it's history now, and it's amazing. That pacemaker thing I was not aware of, so I have to think about that. I don't have one, neither does she, so we're all right.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that before. Thanks for letting me know. I'll remember that for the future, for sure.
I got a question about the induction cook surfaces. We went to one place, and the induction unit itself would not fit on our counter where we have our gas cooktop now. The insert into the deck, it's too small. They'd have to cut a bigger hole. So where we went, all theirs were too big. Any other places that that sell induction cooktops? Every place sells them?
They're all over the place now.
They're all over the place. Okay. I guess we only checked one.
Yeah. That's the internet.
Okay. All right.
The internet, but we put our induction plate over two of the gas stovetop burners. We obviously never turn them on, but that's where we put our induction at. The stove hood takes care of that nicely. It's a small induction. It's just a one unit, but it really gave us direct experience and taught us that there's no way we dread now cooking and firing up the oven and all that.
Hey, maybe you guys had I don't know if Carl Tim's still on. He has had a full induction. So I don't even know. Are they running on 240 volt, like electric stove would? Anybody know that? Are they 120 or 240 volt?
I think that's a real possibility.
It probably is 240.
Yeah, and we've my wife and I have done some major rewiring in the house, and we've now put in 240 outlets, just anticipating down the line. And the IRA will pay for this, pay for this. I mean, this is the time to do this.
Right. Oh yeah.
And you can schedule it out over the 10 years. It doesn't all have to be done. Those credits and like reset every year. It's amazing. Right. And you've just done a great job of laying this out.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah. Okay, anything else?
Last chance,
Last call.
last call.
Last
Oh, okay,
call.
I got one more question. You said you get some kind of point of sale discounts that start in 2024. And then
Right.
I suppose there's some now in 2023.
No,
Right.
the point of sale rebates all start next year. They
Oh,
have to develop the program through the state. I forget which department it is, but they are going to develop that. It may come through Focus on Energy, which is a state utility funded organization. They may be in the forefront of rolling that out, but that'll be all. The point of sale rebates will be next year. There are no current.
any additional tax rebates in 2024 or no? They're all set right now.
They're all set right now. So the
Okay.
bill was like, hey, you get them this year. You want them, they're in there. So, and those are all new. So, well, not all, some of them are carryovers from previous years, but many of them are new, those tax rebates. And again, not difficult to bill, just fill out one little form to claim those tax rebates.
Bill, just a note on Wisconsin. I think you're right. It'll probably be through, well, the Public Service Commission has a smaller department that is on energy information
Right.
for the state of Wisconsin. And they work with the organization you mentioned, Energy for, or what is it? But they'll probably be administering the program for Wisconsin. But they haven't had any formal announcement on that, have they?
No, they haven't. I know CCL had us write the Public Service Commission in favor of using Focus on Energy as the implementing agency. So Focus on Energy already, in fact, when I put my solar panels on, I got another $2,000 rebate from Focus on Energy. So if you're going to do solar panels on things, check. I don't think it's 2,000 anymore. I think it's like 500. But Focus on Energy also has rebates out there that are state-based. So always double check those things too. They have a great website and they make it real easy to figure that stuff out.
Okay, well, it's 8:30. That's the designated time that we're supposed to end. Thanks, Phil. This, as a number of people have mentioned, this was great, really informative. I think it's going to get a bunch of us juiced to go out and look into this some more.
All charged up.
Charged.
Charged and juiced. Okay.
Electrified.
Man.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
take care, you guys.
Thank you.
It's
And,
great talking to everybody.
We'll get this on the website sometime in the next 7 to 10 days, and tell your friends about it. Again, thanks, Phil. It was very interesting.
Okay. All
Thank
right,
you.
take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Phil.